welcome to No Broken Legs. We are back to talk NBA playoffs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. Joining me to discuss what we think this playoffs is going to look like, not just for our own Cleveland Cavaliers, but for all of your gambling needs. Jimmy Champ has joined us. Jimmy, how are you tonight?
I'm good. Had to sweat out that Lakers overtime win, but those Lakers Western Conference champion bets are still alive, everybody.
Yeah, I've got them at plus 1,200. Yeah.
Yep.
I've got them at 12-1, which is nice. Because we mainly focus on football, when we talk basketball, we reach out to our good friend Brandon Fenty, who has joined us tonight. Brandon, how are you? How have you been?
Gentlemen, doing great. Happy to be here. Happy to talk some NBA hoops or any hoops in general. So let's get it.
Well, let's just get right into it. You're a Knicks fan, and we're rooting for the Cavs, and the Knicks are playing the Cavs in a series. It couldn't have worked out much better than that.
Oh, it's going to be juicy. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm so excited for this series. It should be, depending on how Randall looks, it should be either a really fast series or a slow slog-it-out series for the Knicks. So, yeah, I'm going to be glued every game. I tried to bump tickets, but a little bit out of my price range right now with another child. So, I'm super excited.
Well, the Cavs come into this series as the 4 seed. They're hosting. They are minus 200 to win the series right now. The New York Knicks are plus 165. So the Cavs are favored here, but not by a ton, even though they're the younger team. Jimmy, what do you make of this series? Just what do you make of it?
Last week, we had kind of talked a little bit. Excuse me. We had kind of talked a little bit. And last week, I was fully planning on making these bets for the New York Knicks to win this series. I didn't really think Julius Randle was going to come back for this series. Things have changed. I think the Julius Randle that they're going to get, it's going to be the slow, sloggy games, and I think that's where the Cavs can win. I actually think the Knicks' rotation in style of play is a little better without Julius Randle. It kind of negates a little bit of what the Cavs do well. I do think with the Cavs being such a young team, I think the Knicks are going to win a couple home games. The Cavs haven't been great on the road anyway, and now you're playing in Madison Square Garden in the playoffs. I think you'll have some jitters going on there. But with Randle playing, I'm taking the Cavs. But I think this is a 7-game series one way or the other.
I agree with you. I think the Cavs win this series. I expect the Cavs to win this series, I guess is what I'm saying. When Brooklyn sort of blew up their team, I adjusted my expectations for the Cavs. I wanted them to host a first-round playoff series. They've done that. They won 50 games. They look really good. If there's a real Achilles heel that this Cavs team has, it's their bench, because all those guys that come off the bench are like lotto tickets. Cedi Osman will have 5 games where he's basically unplayable, and then he'll go nuclear for a game and carry you. LeVert's not quite that up and down, but even Ricky Rubio, who we were hoping for a lot out of this year, hasn't really performed to expectations. What does the New York Knicks bench look like, Brandon? How do they match up against what the Cavs are going to do?
I think it's going to come down to more of what the coach is going to do for that game. As we all know, all three of us have very strong opinions on a Tibbs coached team and sort of Tibbs' history with, running his players down. But like you said, without Randall in the lineup, which he's coming back, but without him in the lineup, they play fast. And even Mitchell said it on an interview. I think it was Mitchell who kind of alluded to the fact that, hey, we've prepared for them with Randall, and then the game that he was out, that last game that they played, the Knicks kind of blew them out of the water. They were like, we just weren't ready for this fast style coming from New York. So it was kind of a shock. So hopefully Tibbs can take advantage of some of those bench players. I know a couple of weeks ago we talked about how maybe there's some influence on his roster or on his roster of coaches or somewhere in the organization where we've seen changes from his normal, seven in and everybody else just go get some water and you're never going to play again. He had to, basically due to injuries, he had to go deep into the bench. And I think almost every team in the NBA, you can say this, but honestly, I think the Knicks are 10 deep at least. So if we sort of compare the benches, I think Knicks may have an advantage, but I hate to say it, I might be with you guys that the Cavs may edge them out. I just don't think the Knicks D have enough for those perimeter guards. The paint is where we flourish. You know what I mean? Like we're such a paint-oriented team, and we don't give up anything in the paint. But yeah, I think Mitchell and Garland is just going to be a little bit too much and too much offensive firepower.
Now, Brandon, I do wonder. I think on the perimeter, I don't like the Cavs defense. They don't play a lot of defense. Not that teams for whatever reason like to try to go into the key against the Cavs and play against those monsters. But do you think the Knicks guards can take advantage at all on the perimeter of the Cavs defense?
They might be able to. I just don't think there's an answer for Mitchell. I think, a series like this where it's expected for the team to win, you have the guy now, which is something that, Cleveland historically has been missing, not thinking about LeBron James. Of course, he's the guy, but you have the guy who can sort of go in there and say, okay, close clutch game, 3 to 5 points under 5 minutes. I want the ball in either Mitchell or Garland's hand, most likely Mitchell. So I just don't think the Knicks have enough to defend against them. But on the other side, it's fully expected for Brunson to do what Brunson does. He'll have his 20 to 28 points. He'll have his 5 to 10 assists. But I just don't think the Knicks have enough on the perimeter. That's really where I'm looking at.
I'm super excited to see Donovan in this situation. He's been in the playoffs a couple times in the loaded Western Conference. So I'm excited to see what he looks like in what is now a loaded Eastern Conference. I'm curious to see, just what level of superstar comes out of Donovan Mitchell in this series. Because I really do think they're going to need him, especially on the road games. Because I really think the young guys are gonna struggle those first 2 road games in the Garden. So, I think Mitchell's really going to have to play well.
Donovan Mitchell averaging 28 per game in the playoffs for his career. Last year, he was at 25.5. The 2 years before that, he was at 36 and 32, so he's definitely capable. Brandon, I want to touch back on something that you mentioned about that game where the Knicks came out without Randall, played really fast. Yeah. How much do you think that's going to play into this series? Because the Cavs have seen that now, and they've had a chance to adjust their defense, adjust what they do defensively. How much do you think, how much do you think being able to get a look at that already is going to help the Cavs?
I definitely think it helps. The general consensus and the general idea that everyone has is, you kind of go out first couple of games, and then game 3 is really where you see the adjustments happen. I think that the Knicks are capable of doing the thing and coming out of this series, but just looking at the totality of the rosters and who's, it's a game of matchups. Yes, if Randall's back, it's going to turn into that sort of walking through the mud. It's going to be ugly, elbows thrown, tempers are flaring, but I just don't think the Knicks have enough. I think it's going to be Mitchell averaging 40 points a game and Garland just dishing it up and somehow, some way, Evan Mobley's going to find a way in the paint, even though the Knicks preach paint defense, and it'll be Tibbs will be Tibbs. Players will be tired by game 4.
They'll be running wind sprints in practice.
Yeah, after game 1, yeah, it'll be crazy. That first blow at the Garden, I think, might be, going into game 3, I fully expect it to be 1-1. I think everyone expects this to go 6 or 7. But I just think old habits die hard. I've talked about a couple of things I've seen, this year with change in rotation due to necessity and sort of, just maybe a slight change in the coaching style of Tibbs compared to how he's been historically. But I think when it slows down and it gets to that sort of close playoff half-court offense, it's going to be the old Tibbs coming out, slow it down, point guard doing way too much, and it's just not going to be a good situation for the Knicks.
Do we envision a coming out party of sorts at all for Evan Mobley kind of on the national stage? Do we think he's been playing really hot here down the stretch? Do we think he's going to continue that here in the playoffs?
Oh, yeah. I think Evan Mobley's the real deal. I was surprised at how many writers have him as their defensive player of the year already in year 2.
This year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
A couple of guys, Bill Simmons, Ryan Russillo, Chris Broussard, I think Zach Lowe had him. So a number of prominent people have him as their defensive player of the year. I don't think I mean all of us probably expected him to win that award at some point in year 2. Whoo boy. He's just really good. And even if he's not scoring as much because the guards take over, he still finds ways to affect the game. And that's something I want to ask you about, Jimmy, with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. With Randall back in the lineup, do you trust the two bigs for Cleveland to be able to curtail what Randall's going to want to do?
Well, we kind of had a similar conversation to this last year about the Knicks' first-round matchup. Do I expect Julius Randle to be shut down in the playoffs by really good players? Yes.
Full stop.
I do not believe Julius Randle will be able to have his way against Evan Mobley and Jared Allen in the paint.
My only worry with Mobley is Randall's a big body, and Mobley's still growing into his body. He's not yet, as big and as strong as he's going to be. So he's still a little slight, but his footwork's really good. He seems to just have an understanding of what the offense wants to do so that he can be in the right place at the right time. How much of you is hoping that Randall doesn't play many games in this series, Brandon? Or I guess do you want them? Would you rather they play fast without Randall or play slower with Randall?
I'm all for the speed, honestly. I think look, he is statistically the most productive player on the team. That is a known, right? But it just seems that in these close moments, I mean, has he taken a step forward this year in compared to the year where he was on an all-NBA team? Like, how do we look at the numbers this year compared to that year? And yeah. He laid an ultra goose egg in that playoff series against hated rivals. I mean, it was a terrible situation. So I don't know what's going to sway my mind to say that that's not going to happen again. And like Jimmy alluded to, if I look at Evan Mobley and Jared Allen in the paint, or Julius Randle dribble, spin move, possible turnover or fadeaway. I just don't. It's not going to be a pretty situation. Look, he's going to get numbers. I don't think the Knicks. So I will say the one difference this year is there seems to be a fearlessness with this team, right? I'm not going to say, obviously they're not Golden State. They haven't won every freaking game for the last 10 years, but there just seems to be a level of fearlessness that I haven't seen. And I think that comes from having a point guard that seems to be unflappable, because if he's getting going, everyone else is going to follow. He's the guy with the ball. So everyone's saying Randall might be the X factor. I honestly think as Brunson goes, this team will kind of follow. So imagine this scenario, the Cavs come out punching 21-3 in the first quarter, and then all of a sudden Jalen Brunson gets a steal, gets going, gets a three, gets fouled. Like I said, they're capable. They have the ability to do it. There's just too many variables in between a guaranteed yes and it actually happening. So,
Jimmy, how can I guess that's the path forward for the Knicks here. If they're going to win this series, it's going to be because Jalen Brunson has a big series. How do you expect the Cavs to try to slow him down at the point of attack, Jimmy?
I mean, they haven't really tried to slow down any point guards at the point of attack this year. So I don't know why that would change in this series.
I guess they would. I mean, they would have to put like a Coro on him, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think they're just going to outscore him. I don't really think they're going to be. They're going to be concerned with his production.
Probably not a bad idea.
Contain and let the other guys do it, right? Just don't let Randall bully ball you in the paint and sort of try to contain Brunson. And that's it seems to be an easier strategy as opposed to what the Knicks would have to do to shut down the Cavs offense.
The real question in this series is about Donovan Mitchell. This is the big stage that he really wanted. He wanted the ability to play for a contending team. And I don't think the Cavs are quite ready to win a championship. I think they're still maybe 2 seasons away, but I think he understands how good this team can be. What are you expecting from Donovan Mitchell in this series, Brandon?
From Mitchell, I think it'll be similar to Brunson's numbers. I think he'll easily average 30 to 40 points a game. A couple of steals, a couple crazy blocks, depending on that fearlessness of the Knicks and how they come out. But I think he's ready to sort of punch them in the face. Look, the writing is on the wall, especially after this last offseason. It was kind of Brunson. Was it Mitchell? Mitchell wants to play for New York. He was basically born and raised around the area. So it will be a little bit of poetic justice for him to come in to MSG, hit his 45, 50-point game, and then he'll put his name on the wall as second or third most points ever scored in MSG in a playoff series. It's going to happen. I have that feeling. So.
Yeah, I feel like game 2, I'll be betting the Knicks to win, probably the Knicks to cover whatever the spread is, and then every over I can find on Donovan Mitchell I will bet. Because I think Mitchell, I think he's going to be spectacular in game 2 in the Garden.
No, that's just to reiterate that it's. I feel like I'm reading it through the tea leaves. It's going to happen, and it happens every year to the Knicks. There's another player that wants to show up in the playoffs or show up in the regular season. So, would you be surprised, Evan, if you see Mitchell with like a 60-piece in the Garden? Would that surprise you at all?
No. Donovan Mitchell is really good. I finally blocked this dude on Facebook that's on Terry Pluto's Facebook that was just like a Colin Sexton homer, and at one point was like, what difference is there between Mitchell and Sexton? They're both undersized guards who mainly score, and it's like,
wow.
It's just like I don't even know what to say to that. And what I say to that is this whole last season, like Donovan Mitchell scores so much more effectively. The ball moves better all across the offense, being able to share the load a little bit with Darius Garland, even though I think we should give Garland credit for taking a step back this year. I think he has maybe taken some criticism for that, but there's only one basketball, and with Mitchell playing at the level that he did, a lot of people have him as an NBA. A lot of people have him as a first-team All-NBA. We'll see if he winds up there. He'll probably be second at worst. Yeah, I think this is going to be the Mitchell game, and all the smart NBA people are going to have everything they need to say, oh yeah, man, Mobley in 2 years. Like, that's going to be the difference. Mitchell will get all the headlines, but all of us that really, really watch the game will be like, oh man, Mobley is just like, look at all the little things he's doing and imagine what he's going to be in 2 years.
Do you think this is sort of a prove-it series for Mitchell, especially given this last offseason?
I guess. I don't think a lot of Cavs fans I think they want them to win this series, but if this is a 7-game series and the Cavs lose it, I don't think you're going to have a parade of people calling for JB Bickerstaff to be fired.
Right.
And I don't think they should. I think JB's done a pretty good job with the hand he's been given. I think he's had to ride his starters more than he would like to, and I think he's going to have to do that a lot in the playoffs because of what we talked about earlier with the Cavs bench. But I don't, okay, so Mobley, Allen, Garland, and Mitchell all play 40 minutes a game. Great. Those guys are better than anybody else that's going to play those minutes, so you're not making me sad. Like, oh man, we're gonna miss the Dean Wade experience.
The best Wade to ever play for Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, he plays hard, and so does Stevens. They're not. If Jimmy and I talk about this a lot with the Cleveland Browns, where yes, the Browns are better than they were 5 years ago talent-wise, but that doesn't mean they are talented compared to the rest of the league. and the guys that the Cavs have in their starting lineup are legitimate NBA starters. They've got all-stars. They've got a future. I mean, Mitchell might be a future MVP in the future. I think Mobley's a future MVP. But their bench is just a whole bunch of guys that if they're going to compete for a title just aren't going to be on this roster because they're not good enough. That pretty much wraps up what we have for the Cavs and the Knicks. We'll see how that series starts out Saturday night. It should be a lot of fun. We'll probably do a lot of trash talking back and forth because that's what we do. But there are other series going on. Right now, the Chicago Bulls are 3 points ahead of the Raptors with 11 seconds left. The loser or the winner of this game will play the Miami Heat for the 8th playoff spot. Does Jimmy, do you think either of these teams have a chance against Milwaukee?
No.
How about you, Brandon?
No, I don't think there's a chance. I think if I were the Bucks, I would rather see the Hawks. But I just don't think there's a chance if either of those teams progress to fight against the Bucks. It's going to be a slaughterhouse.
Yeah, there's no lines on any of this yet. I would expect Milwaukee's going to be like minus 1,400 or something. One thing we should talk about for the Bucks, though, is Giannis, and we talk a lot about MVP. I think we've all made the point that, Joker seems to get a lot of credit for what he does offensively while Embiid and Giannis do what they do offensively. And then we just don't talk about defense because it's terrible for Joker. It's not just that they have Giannis on that defense. I think Jrue Holiday's defense is underrated. I think you guys would agree. Right now, the Bucks are plus 265. They're the favorites to win the title. Do you think they deserve to be the favorites to win the title, Jimmy?
Yes. Yes. I mean, we're in the NBA. We're in the NBA playoffs. This is where the best players can make the most impact in the game. The thing I hate, the years Giannis was winning MVPs, the team wasn't good enough to go deep in the playoffs, and he kept having to have those embarrassing press conferences and losing hallways and shit. And now he is clearly the best player in the league.
You scored 45 points. Why didn't you do more to help your team win?
Yeah.
Fucking loser.
He's clearly, I mean, and now he is clearly, but we talk about this. This is the LeBron thing that we can't just give the MVP to the guy who's the best player on the best team, making the most impact for whatever reason. We've decided that it is what it is. But I agree with you. It's not just Giannis. They have put the right pieces around him. I think Jrue Holiday on defense, I think his energy is infectious for his other teammates, and they want to be a great defensive team. They know what they're going to do on the offensive end, but they want to be great on defense as well. And I think they might lose a game in the first round, maybe. I don't really know, but I think they're going to be dominant, and they're going to set up for a deep playoff run.
What do you think the biggest hurdle is for this Bucks team on their path to a championship, Brandon?
The biggest hurdle as far as team to face, or just in general?
Obviously, catastrophic injury. They lost Middleton last year, and I think we all talked about it. If Middleton's healthy, they probably win the title last year. But saying everybody stays healthy, who do you think presents the biggest challenge? Is it Boston? Is it whoever comes out of the West?
Honestly, if we're in the East, I think the Celtics would probably let me rephrase. The Sixers would probably be the biggest challenge for the Bucks. Just you can't count out. We're talking about Joel Embiid. He's going to win the MVP because narrative. Full stop. But I don't. So James Harden's receiving some due praise. He has changed his game a little bit. He's no longer the sort of slasher that he was before. He's led the league in assists despite the missed games, but he's still the sort of assist leader this year. They're kind of crowning him that. And I just think Philly is a super scary matchup for them. Embiid always just seems to have his way, against a Giannis-led Bucks. I don't know what it is, but he's bigger, he's stronger. I think if I'm the Bucks, that's the one team that yeah.
He's
That's
one
one
of the
team
few
I'm looking
guys
at, and
that's
I'd be
big
like,
enough to sort of muscle around Giannis.
Yeah. Yep.
And that list is, I think, Embiid and Steven Adams, and I think that's the list.
Well, Adams is out now, so
yeah, but I mean, those are the only people capable of it when healthy, and then Steven Adams is like half caveman, so.
So that doesn't count. Yeah, that doesn't count at all.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think the Bucks would love to see Boston because it's just a horrible matchup for the Celtics. Drew Holiday really gives them fits on the perimeter, and they don't have any kind of answer on either end of the floor for Giannis. So, yeah, I think the Bucks would much rather see Boston than Philly. I think they're going to see Philly, and I think it'll be a hell of a series when we get there.
A lot of revenge factor too. Last year, that was a really close series between the Celtics and the Bucks with Chris Middleton out. With Chris Middleton in, I think that's the difference, and the Bucks will win that series. Speaking of the Boston Celtics, they are playing the Atlanta Falcons, They are playing the Atlanta Hawks in the 2-7 game. Atlanta showed up big time, 116-105 over the Miami Heat. The Boston Celtics are minus 1,000, and the Hawks are plus 650. We saw Trae Young go nuclear and lead the Hawks on a run. Is there any chance that happens here, Brandon?
Yes, there is, and I know everyone in the world is gonna pick Boston. There is a pathway for Atlanta to win, and this is going to sound like the biggest irony because we are talking about the Celtics. You know, Marcus Smart beats his chest. He's been terrible this year, but I just think somehow, some way, with a Clint Capella and a Trae Young who, you know, there is no moment too big for Trae Young. If you could put him any moment, he'll probably succeed in it or do his thing. And this is from a Knicks fan where they embarrassed us out of the playoffs. And
yeah, they did.
You know, we don't need to bring that up. We had the cameras, we had everything. The whole city was saying "fuck Trae Young," you know, and then we got embarrassed because we won one game. But I just think I don't know. It's a known that Trae Young is going to step up. Now we're talking about the Celtics, right? One of the best defenses in the league. I think there's a heart factor that they're missing, and they'll never get over that until their roster changes. So to say that this is just written on the wall that Boston's going to blow them out of the water, I think this goes maybe 6 games. I think Atlanta gives them a fight, and it's going to be a tougher series than everyone else is predicting.
I don't know. To me, this feels like Boston's going to come in and lay the smack down 4 or 5 games. They really had a great chance at a championship last year, and they blew it. And I think that's going to be a motivating factor for them. Jimmy, do you give Atlanta as much a chance as Brandon does? How do you see this playing out?
Well, I mean, I'm going to start this with, Brandon, I tried to prepare you last year for what was going to happen in that series.
You did.
I tried to prepare you.
You did.
And if there happen to be any Boston Celtics fans listening, I'm trying to prepare you now. I don't think your team's got enough dog in you to beat these Atlanta Hawks in this series. I actually think I think the Hawks rotation, I think they've just got guys that are going to keep shooting, whether they're making shots or missing shots. And I don't know if Boston's going to know what to do with that. And we have seen Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are superstars in this league until it's really put to task. Until it's really, here is your chance to take that next step into that true elite NBA top tier status, and neither one of them do that. And we know Trae can. And I just love them. I love the makeup of the Hawks team. I love them being coached by our favorite supervillain. Like, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think they are going to get this done. And I agree with you. Because I think if you really, when the series is over, I think if you look at, where the Hawks are strong and where the Celtics are strong, you shouldn't be surprised at the Hawks winning this series.
Wow. Yeah. Hawks are plus 650. Small bet gets you a big return on that. You could probably make up anything you would need on betting the individual games. I actually really like that play. I don't think the Hawks are going to win, but I like the play.
How's Robert Williams' health? Because I honestly, I think Atlanta's such a great rebounding team, and it hurts for me to even compliment them after what they did to us in the previous seasons. But giving them the credit, I mean, they have big guys. They have like Jimmy said, they have guys that are ready to shoot. They can go 2 for 25 from 3, but guess what? They're going to still be hoisting them up. And Trey is everyone's favorite supervillain to hate, and I just think he steps up. Now, granted, all of this is being said, and we're talking about Boston. Honestly, I think this and maybe the next series will show me something about the Boston Celtics team that I think they've been missing, which is that sort of we've got that heart, Jaylen Brown, has troubles with turnovers at times, and I think he's going to really have to tighten up on the perimeter because those Hawks are coming, man. They're not going to back down to this challenge. They can't. It is a defeatable Celtics team, and hopefully they're going to be ready for what the Hawks are bringing into the Garden. So.
Yeah, I think Murray and Young and Hunter, like, they're going to keep coming, and Boston never seems to do well when the other team is doing to them what they want to do to the other team. And I think the three of them are just going to keep coming. I think Clint Capella is the best big in the series, and I think that matters. I love Bogdan. Like, I think he's going to have a good series. I think the Hawks, I believe Trey is going to get the Hawks through this first round series. And then we can once again talk about how good actually are Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
Every time I watch the Celtics this season, the first thing out of my mouth is, why is half of their offense predicated on Al Horford being open for quarter 3?
Exactly.
And it's bothered me for the last however many years, from the first stint to the second stint. Yeah. I just don't trust Al Horford to be that third guy that they need to step up. I just don't trust him.
Well, you don't. Yeah, you shouldn't. You don't have to convince us, man. We've been on the Al Horford can't win a title for a long time.
Robert
Evan,
Williams. I know your Al Horford love.
Williams should play. He's questionable because he's always questionable, but he should play. And talking a lot about Hart in this series for Boston. The player that we think of most when we think about lack of playoff heart is James Harden, unfortunately. For all of his regular season brilliance, he's really struggled in the postseason. Yeah. The Sixers come in with Embiid, and Harden is the 3 seed. They're playing what's the remnants of the Brooklyn Nets after the Kyrie, Kevin Durant, sometimes James Harden, Ben Simmons saga. Philadelphia are minus 900. The Brooklyn Nets are plus 600. Jimmy, are you as optimistic about the Nets' chances against the Sixers as you are about the Hawks over the Celtics?
No, not at all. Give me the Sixers. Give me the Sixers. I think it'll be quick work, 5 or 6 games, and Embiid marches on to meet Giannis in the playoffs again.
Wow, what do you expect out of Harden in this first series? Do you think he looks all right in this series? What do you expect him to look like as we move through the playoffs, Brandon?
I think, like I said earlier, Harden definitely deserves credit for sort of how he's reimagined himself this year. I have been as anti-Harden as you can come across over the course of the last, honestly, since his Rockets days. It's just been somebody that I wouldn't want, and almost everybody can agree that, come playoff time, he just seems to disappear. So hopefully he isn't who we thought he was, and can step up and do that next level and just kind of be that assist man that they need, and doesn't do too much out of the ordinary. If he does in the playoffs what he's done this regular season, it should be this first series should kind of be a cakewalk.
Yeah, I like the Sixers. Boston seems to have their number for some reason. So if Philly ends up playing Boston, I think that'll be a tough series for them. But if what you guys think the Hawks are going to win, and I think for Embiid, he's going to win an MVP and he's going to get his flowers. And if they get bumped in the second round by the Celtics again, I think it's going to be a tough offseason for him. This feels
I'll
like
give
a
you
make or
that.
break year for the Sixers because I don't know why James Harden would do this, but apparently he's thinking about signing in Houston in the offseason for I don't know.
Why?
I guess if they win the Wembanyama sweepstakes, then yeah, I could see that because that dude looks just ridiculously good. But other than that, I don't see what the appeal of Houston is. That team seems to be a complete mess. But that would be my biggest worry for Philadelphia is where is James Harden's head at? How well is he going to play? I think Embiid's a monster. I think he's going to dominate. It's just a question of how much help does he get.
Is there a weakness that maybe that the Nets can exploit for Philly? Because I've been running every scenario in my head since this, and I just don't see it. I don't.
No,
Michael Bridges, Bridges has been amazing. He's 40-point games left and right every other game.
I mean, he's Bradley Beal. He's Bradley Beal 7 years ago.
Right.
He's going to score a ton of points.
See...
They're going to be a lower seed, and they're going to get bounced in like 5 or 6 games.
I think maybe the Nets will win a game. They're very switchable. They have like 8 guys that are 6'7" to 6'10" that can all just kind of do everything. But I don't think it's not going to be an easy out for sure. But I just don't think they have enough for Philly. No way.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, that's the eastern side of the bracket. The Chicago Bulls have beaten the Toronto Raptors 109-105, so it will be Miami and Chicago playing for the right to lose to the Milwaukee Bucks. On the other side, the Denver Nuggets are the 1 seed, and as far as 1 seeds go, they seem to be considered as weak as the Utah Jazz a few years back, and our favorite legendary team that never was, the 60-win Atlanta Hawks. Jimmy, do you think this is the season Denver can make the leap, or do you think they're just not good enough? Because they've got everybody. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's in the lineup. There's not really any excuses this year.
No, I mean, I think they're going to get through the first round. I think they'll get bounced in round 2. I do think they'll 5 or 6 game series in the first round. And I will be picking them probably to lose in the second round, looking at what I think the matchups will be. So
that seems to be what I think as well. Brandon, how far do you think this Denver team can go?
God, if you ask the East Coast talking heads or anyone who is sort of a huge Jokic fan, they think this is Denver's year to get to the finals. I've heard so many pundits,
don't
so
tell
many
that
analysts.
Don't tell that to the betting houses. They're plus 1,100 to win the title. They're currently behind Philadelphia, Golden State, Phoenix, Boston, and Milwaukee.
It's not going to happen. I think they'll definitely get past this first round, but I will say just an asterisk for Denver when Michael Porter Jr., who the Knicks passed on, which I'm thankful for. He's another injury-prone guy, but he does have the talent and capability to be that guy. But
yeah,
if he's playing at an all-star level, which I think he can, and be sort of that perennial all-star for them, then they're going to be a tough out. It's going to be ugly, but I just don't think they have enough juice to even get by the Clippers. If barring crazy injury, and if Clippers can come in with everybody too, I just don't see them getting by the Clippers, or heck, even like the Warriors. I think the Warriors can blow them out too. So
I don't know. I don't like teams that have a fundamental flaw to them, and with that Utah team and that Hawks team in the mid 2010s, they really lacked a star, like a real go-to star. They were more of a, we got a bunch of guys that are good, but we don't have anybody who's great. Denver's got some good players, and Joker's a great player, but you can just run pick and roll on Joker all day long, and it is just a layup line. And I think that's a real problem for them in the playoffs, especially in a 7-game series where you see each other a lot. And if teams are just going to, can Denver find a way to stop teams from doing that? Because I think they can get away with it against OKC, New Orleans, or Minnesota. But, Phoenix, the Clippers, I mean, even Sacramento, if they get that far in the conference finals, they're just going to run Joker off the floor.
Big fan here. Just saying.
Well, we'll get to them here in a
Sacramento.
second. The series everybody is talking about, and Jimmy alluded to it earlier, the Los Angeles Lakers beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 108-102 in overtime. LeBron put 30 up. AD was, I think, 24, 25. Anyway, the Lakers are playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who are... where we got the Grizzlies are minus 140 to win this series. The Lakers are plus 120. I've got a Lakers plus 1200 to win the West. I'm super excited about it. I hope it cashes. They got to get past this first series first. Brandon, what are you expecting from this series with the Lakers and the Grizz?
I think the stars have aligned for the Lakers to at least get out of this first round. Just with the play-in against a depleted Minnesota team, which made it way closer than anyone anticipated. Sure.
Yeah.
And
the Lakers
KD tried his
they go
hardest
through
to blow
these
that
drought
game.
shooting, and they just don't make shots, and they fall behind early. It happens way too often.
Right. So depending on how Ja does his Ja thing, and I just don't think Memphis has enough to best them in a series. So I have Lakers winning there. I think Golden State might. I'm never going to count out Steph and Clay. I just won't do it. I don't care who they're playing against. It's just I've done that for multiple years now in the past, and it's always turned against me. So even this year, I'm not going to say that if it's an LA Golden State that LA is going to blow them out the water, because it's not going to happen. But as far as that goes, that'll be the biggest challenge. But I think it's been aligned at least for them to get out of this first round against Memphis.
In every series, Jimmy, that we talk about the Lakers playing somebody, there's two questions that have to be asked. Who's guarding LeBron and who's guarding AD? Who does Memphis have to throw at those two guys that can really... Or who do they have to throw at those two guys?
No one that can stop them.
I mean, they're going to try with JJ, but he's probably only going to play 25 minutes because he's going to be in foul trouble.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I completely agree with what Brandon said. This was really best case scenario. This is the best matchup because really Ja could score 40, 50 a game, and I don't think it'll matter. I think the Lakers, tempo-wise, I think the Lakers will be able to do whatever they want. And I just think LeBron and AD will be able to – I don't even think they'll have to have it all the way dialed up to 10, and I still think they can win the series.
One of the most consistent bets that you can make in the NBA playoffs is to bet LeBron James to lose the first game of a series. Do you think that'll happen again here, Jimmy?
No.
You think they come out firing?
I think they need to get game one. Rarely in a playoff series have we ever thought LeBron needed to get game one. But because of what Ja can do, I think LeBron is going to try to make sure they get game one. I think they may need it just to be safe. And I think he's really going to come out. I think they're really going to come out focused and try to grab game one.
I think they should, because I think the fewer games they play, the better. I think we see that in the playoffs every year. And it's not just the older teams. We've seen it with LeBron in the last decade. It's easy to be fresh or be fresher than your opponent in the conference finals and the finals when you're playing 4 and 5 game series in round 1 and 2. It just, that shit matters. And especially with how much they got to cover on the court. These guys are running all over the fucking place. It's already been a long season. Now we got a 2-month grind to the title. Everybody's given their all. I just think this is the best time of the year for basketball because everybody's really, really trying. And it's just when we get to see who's the best. And it just, even in year 20, it just seems like LeBron doesn't get tired. And I mean, he's starting to show cracks in that. And over time, he looked like he was definitely winded and his legs weren't really under him. But it's just, he seems to be just as fresh as anybody else out there that's 10 years younger than him. And it's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, it is the spots where he struggled in the play-in game, the game before was one of the better games I've seen him play this year.
All right. Everybody talks about the Lakers, so let's move on to a team that hardly anybody talks about, which is the Sacramento Kings. Brandon, you just gave them some love. They're playing Golden State in, really an old guard, new guard matchup here. Where are they? The Sacramento Kings are plus 220 to win this series. The Golden State Warriors are minus 275. Who do you like here? You threw some love at the Kings. You threw some love at Clay and Steph. What do you think happens in this series?
As it's been outside of the Kevin Durant years, as Steph Curry goes, so does the team. So Steph will catch fire. He'll step up for the playoffs. And I love what the Kings have done this year. I think, I always root for the underdog, just being a New York underdog team fan. I never root for the Yankees. I never root for, any of the winning teams. I root for the little guy, right? So I always look at that 2002 Kings playoff series that everyone's going to bring up from now until hell freezes over. How they were cheated out of the finals, but we don't have to talk about that. So I just think as
the NBA would prefer we didn't.
Right. Oh, that and Gilbert Arenas. Look, I will enter anytime I get a chance. I will put Gilbert Arenas in a conversation when NBA basketball is being talked about. But they basically wrote him off from the entire history book just because of what happened.
Yeah.
But I just imagine, I don't see. Wiggins is back, and that's kind of what everyone's alluding to. He's their sort of defensive guy who can kind of step up. He's lanky and sort of crazy athletic. I just don't think Sacramento has enough, and this is going to sound ironic because they had a historic offense this year, but I don't know if Sacramento has enough to combat what the Stephs, the Clays, and Wigginses of the world will have proven to have done over the course of the last few years. So if I had to make a bold prediction, I would say Warriors in 6, but just getting back to the Kings, man, it's such a fun team to watch. They have it's a good team and everyone loves them when they have a slogan, right? Light the beam.
Yeah.
Like I love the slogan. I want to light the beam shirt. I just want it. It's going to happen. And I'll probably wear it whenever they play, even though it's going to be super late on West Coast time and East Coast time. But I just don't think they have enough to best the Warriors this series.
Jimmy, I just talked about teams with fatal flaws. The Sacramento Kings' fatal flaw is they are just atrocious defensively. And in the playoffs, we see over and over again how important it is to be able to get stops. Do you think the Kings can play enough defense to beat this Warriors team in a 7-game series?
Well, I guess first I have to ask the two of you guys a question. Over the course of 3 weeks, can you change the fact that you've been bad defensively and bad on the road almost all year?
Probably
no, that's
not.
True. Yeah. Probably
because,
not. Yeah.
Because the Warriors have been bad on the road and bad defensively almost all year. I'm taking the Sacramento Kings to win this series in 7. I believe I actually.
So you'll
think
be taking
Sacramento,
a lot of overs.
Yes, I mean these games are going to be. There's going to be a lot of points scored. But there's gonna come a point where, Brandon, I understand where you're coming from with the man. I don't want to bet against Steph and Clay, but this Kings team is probably very close to having a backcourt that can shoot somewhat like that. And I think if Sabonis can stay focused, I think he could probably be the MVP of the first round of the playoffs. I think he could absolutely dominate this first round. I really believe that. I think the Kings win this in 7. I'm not gonna write off how good they were and just believe a team that hasn't wanted to defend all year is now gonna defend because
all of a sudden.
Well, it's based on how good the numbers are when they run that lineup out there with Wiggins. I mean, they've only played 72 minutes or whatever, but I mean, they've been just ungodly good when they have that lineup. What is it? Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond Green, and is it Poole? Is he the 5th in that lineup?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That's their new quote unquote death lineup. It's just really
but I don't
teams.
think the Draymond of 2023 can handle Domantas Sabonis. I just really don't.
Well,
I think he's been excellent.
I mean, Draymond's kind of the wild card. Is he going to play all the games of this series, or is he going to have a temper tantrum and get more technical fouls and be suspended for a game or two? We've already seen, I mean, everybody in Cleveland knows Draymond getting suspended helped win a series in 2016. So it wouldn't be out of the question, especially after what happened in the offseason with Draymond Green punching his teammate, which, apparently isn't as rare as we thought it was. Guys are just hitting teammates all over the place now.
It's just not recorded. I wonder how much that guy got paid. Whoever released that.
Yeah,
that's why you got to pay everybody in the stadium a good amount. They won't do that shit.
I think Green is going to be the primary defender, right? On Sabonis. That's just looking at lineups, looking at how matchups and ebbs and flows go. There's not enough sample size. Yes, they've played a bunch of times, but there's not enough sample size just based due to injuries, due to matchups on that matchup. So I'm not going to say, well, look what he did this season. We can't really use that as a reliable, predictor as to how it's going to go in the playoffs. But do you think Sabonis can sort of mitigate some of those pains that Green's going to force him to do? He's going to force him to, move outside. Even if Green isn't the best shooter, he's going to at least attempt it. You know what I mean? We're not talking about Ben Simmons here. Or just even when Green's on the defensive end, I just think he's going to try to be that annoying bully in the ear, push him a little bit, shoves a couple of elbows that the refs and cameras might miss somehow.
He's the guy that the refs sort of dictate how he plays, because we've seen him multiple times now, not just this season, but in previous seasons. When he gets his first technical, he just starts acting like the most ridiculous human being on earth because he knows they're really hesitant to throw him out of a game. And I would love to see the referees set the tone early and get him to shut the fuck up and just play basketball, because when they let him just do whatever he wants, I think it helps the Warriors, because the other team is just looking at the refs and going like, so what, he just like the rules are totally different for this fucking guy because he's acting like a buffoon.
Yeah, and I'm going to choose my words carefully here. I don't quite want to call it a revenge series, but Harrison Barnes is going to have something to prove in this series.
Oh man.
Like plain and simple.
He did miss a lot of wide open shots in that 2016 series. That's particularly why they went out and got Kevin Durant.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But I think whatever the best version of Harrison Barnes can be, whatever his optimum ceiling is going to be, I think you're going to get it in this game. And if you get Barnes and Sabonis getting hot at the same time, I don't think the Warriors have an answer for that. Wiggins isn't big enough to guard either one of them, and Draymond can't guard two people at once. So I think the Kings, I'm not going to dismiss what they've done this year because they're playing a team that, like the Lakers, kind of sort of squeaked into the playoffs. Like, granted, they scored 150 against a team that wanted to lose so they could stay in the lottery, but we don't investigate that, right? We investigate Luka getting benched, but we don't investigate a team that gives up 150 fucking points. That's totally okay. But I'm just not willing to say the Warriors are all of a sudden just good. And I mean, Sacramento's been good all year. Their offense has been incredible. I think this is a big time. Let me show everybody just how good I am moment for Fox. I can't wait for this series. I think it's going to be incredible. But I just think Fox and Sabonis, I think they're going to be the two best players on the court.
I'm of two minds on this. My heart tells me the Kings are going to win, and my head tells me the Warriors are going to win. And I really hope the Kings win this series, because that would be fantastic. We just mentioned Kevin Durant, who was traded to the Phoenix Suns. The 4-5 series sees the Suns and the Clippers face off. Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant in the first round of the NBA playoffs. This would be a lot more fun if Paul George was going to be playing the whole series, but it looks like he might not be back till middle of the series, and at that point, maybe not at all, because I don't see how the Clippers are going to match up with this Phoenix team that still hasn't lost with Kevin Durant. How long of a series do you think this is going to be, Brandon?
I think this goes honestly 5 or 6. I think people are overestimating the Clippers You know, I don't know why it's happening. It seems
that is such a weird sentence.
Overestimating the Clippers. Yeah. Like you said, with no Paul George really for the beginning of this series, I just don't think they have enough to contain what the Suns will have to offer. You're not going to stop that three-headed monster, and I think Chris Paul has sort of a renewed like holy shit, I can actually do this year. Like,
yeah, he could be the third best guy on a title-winning team.
Yeah, and he's completely
Durant's
fine with that.
Playing as well as anybody, and Booker's playing really good basketball too.
I just don't think they have enough to get past the Suns here, especially with a Kevin Durant, with a Devin Booker who, you know, is arguably one of the better shooting guards. Well, not arguably there. He's one of the better shooting guards scoring wise in the NBA. And there's really, is there an X factor for the Clippers that you can say, hey, this is the guy that will sort of step up and get us over the KD hump? I just don't see going down that roster the guy. You know, I like Norman Powell. Don't get me wrong. He might be one of the guys, but I just don't see it.
Jimmy, what are you expecting out of this series?
Yeah, I don't really know where the Clippers can come up with the offense they need, and I think when Phoenix's starting lineup is healthy with Kevin Durant, they may be the best team in the NBA. I think it's just fair to say. I think they just very well might be. You gotta figure Kawhi, Paul, Russ, like they're gonna get a game at least, maybe two. So I agree, maybe 5 or 6, but I think Phoenix. I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think Phoenix's wins are gonna be very close games. I think they're gonna control this series. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of probably double-digit victories for Phoenix in this series, because when Durant's been healthy this year, he's looked really good. We know what Booker can do. Chris Paul is perfect in this role. Ayton continues to be really good. Like I think this team's going to be really good.
No, I was going to say Durant, and I've watched a couple of the games in Phoenix, with him in Phoenix, and he's doing things on this team just by, you know, design and by roster that he wasn't doing on other teams.
Yeah,
you know, he's playing more off ball, which obviously with Booker and Paul you can do. And I just think it's going to be it might be a massacre. I don't want to say the word massacre as I would in other,
but it very well might be.
Yeah, I don't think they have enough. The Clippers definitely don't have enough. So
no, I don't think so either. So let's wrap up here with our predictions. Brandon, who do you have in the Western Conference Finals, and who do you have winning that series?
In the West Finals, I have the Suns, and I think the Suns versus. Oh my God. Oh God, I don't want to say it. Suns versus Warriors. I'm almost choking on saying that, but it just seems to be, and you know, winning on the road, of course, they are a terrible road team this year. It's going to be a tough challenge, but it's hard to go against that pedigree. But I think the Suns finally get their sort of revenge on the Warriors and say that they come out of the West. Yeah. Why people are predicting the Clippers or Denver coming out of the West, I just don't see it over the Suns with KD.
I don't see that happening either.
So Suns Bucks is how I kind of look at it. But yeah, coming out of the West is going to.
And who do you have winning the title?
I want to say Milwaukee. I think it's going to be a tough one with Durant on the Suns, and there's a lot of key matchups there. I hope we get a chance to do another pod for just when that finals comes up. But I think Milwaukee has the key to that victory against the Suns, even with a KD on the team. I just think they have that certain something that's needed. Now, granted, Grayson Allen being out, and don't get me wrong, he's the dukiest of Duke players there ever has been.
That's the damn truth.
I've discussed with you guys outside of this podcast my disdain for Dookie players like that, but he's going to be an important player in that series. I just have the Bucks beating the Suns in the finals.
And then who do you have the Bucks beating in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Eastern Conference Finals. Ooh, that's a good one.
Who's coming out of the bottom of the bracket there?
Yeah, can I just say the Bucks because it doesn't really matter?
That's fair. That's plenty fair. Jimmy, who do you have in the conference finals and playing and then winning the finals?
So I think you're gonna have Phoenix and the Lakers playing in the West, and I think you're gonna have Milwaukee and Philly playing in the East. And I think you're gonna have a Phoenix Milwaukee finals. I don't know who I think is gonna win that series yet. I think it may very much be to steal, one of the favorite things we like hearing Shaq talk about. That series will probably come down to the others, like which non-superstars plays the best in the finals will probably determine that victory. But I'm super excited for this first round matchups. I think there's really only a couple duds. I think there's gonna be a lot of good games, but I think we're gonna see a lot of really great players have a chance to show how good they are.
I agree. I think we get Bucks Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think James Harden's playoff woes continue. I like the Bucks to come out of the East. I see Phoenix and LA in the Western Conference Finals, and despite my 12-1 bet, I don't see how the Lakers can really match up against Phoenix. I just think that's too tough of a matchup. And I like Milwaukee to beat Phoenix. I think Milwaukee's got a grit and a toughness that's going to give Phoenix some problems. If anybody else comes out of the East, I don't see anybody in the East having anything for Phoenix. Like I don't see Boston or Philadelphia being able to really give Phoenix a ton of problems.
No. Now, what do we think if playoff injury Chris Paul happens? Do we think that makes a difference?
I think that makes a pretty big difference. I mean, he's the engine. He makes sure everybody gets enough touches. He makes sure that the offense is running the way it's supposed to run. I mean, we've seen it before. Kevin Durant can carry a team, but I don't know if he can. Yeah, we have yet to see him carry a team to a finals, let alone a title.
It's true.
He had a chance the other year when he was on the Nets, except his foot's a quarter inch too big.
Quarter inch. It's a game of inches, as they say.
Yeah, that was crazy.
All right, well, thanks for joining us, Brandon. We'll have to, like you said, we'll have to try and do this again before the finals.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm excited for all of these series. Let's go Knicks, even though I think the Cavs might beat them. But
yeah, I think we might need a second round podcast because I think we're gonna have a lot of awesome discussions to be had after we see what shakes out in these first round.
Sounds like a plan. Jimmy, thanks for joining us as well.
No place I'd rather be, brother.
And we would like to thank you for listening. Please drop us a like or subscribe so you can keep up to date when we do our next NBA podcast, which will happen much sooner. There'll be a lot less gap between NBA podcasts than between, I don't know, it's been like almost a year. But we will do better. And for Jimmy Champ and Brandon Fenty, I am Evan Belfiore, and we will see you next time here with more NBA on No Broken Legs.